Plattsburgh is gearing up for one of its major events of the year, the Battle of Plattsburgh Commemoration, happening this coming weekend from the 8th to the 11th. The naval battle on Lake Champlain in September of 1814 stopped the advance of British forces from invading the U.S. colonies, and what military scholars say was a turning point in the War of 1812. Every year, the city of Plattsburgh commemorates the battle with a parade, bands, fireworks, and reenactments. And this year, with the border reopened, Canadians, including reenactors, will be returning.
Something we haven't had in the last couple of years is all the reenactors. Because of COVID, they couldn't come across the border. We have a lot of reenactors coming this year. There'll be the Grand Encampment over at Kent Delord House, and they'll also be doing demonstrations throughout the weekend.
And one of the new events planned this year will challenge people to climb the McDonough Monument, which towers 135 feet into the sky right across from Plattsburgh City Hall.
So this year we're going to have what we're calling the 156 Club. There's 156 stairs going up and 156 stairs coming down. So everyone that goes up and comes down is going to be a member of the 156 Club. They're going to get a button that says, "I survived the climb."
At the kickoff this year, the organizers honored fifth graders in Clinton and Essex counties who took part in a contest to create a poster depicting the Battle of Plattsburgh. And they reflected on the significance of that battle on Cumberland Bay.
I don't think our country would be here if what had happened back in 1814 hadn't happened. There's so much history sitting right here in Plattsburgh. This whole country can be brought back to what happened here in Plattsburgh on Sunday afternoon in 1814. You can see how back then, how easily it would have been for our country not to exist. So this is a very important event.
And joining us this week is Tom Downey, who is the president of the Battle of Plattsburgh 1814 Commemoration Committee. Also, filmmaker Bruce Carlin, who created the documentary The Final Invasion, that looks at the history of the Battle of Plattsburgh and will be rebroadcast here on Mountain Lake PBS on Labor Day, Monday, September 5th. Welcome to you both. Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having us.
The Battle of Plattsburgh Commemoration back in full swing after a couple of years. Lots of events planned for September 8th through the 11th. Tom, what are some of the highlights coming up this year?
Well, one of the main things is we have a lot more reenactors than we've had in the last few years. Now that the border is open, they can come down, and people have missed that. The parade this year might be a little bit smaller, same reason that unfortunately we found that in the COVID years, the Canadians couldn't come across the border, so we couldn't get the big bands out of Canada. This year we're finding that right at the very end, many of the people that are in the bands had their passports expired, and they're backed up so far that it'll be after our event when they'll be able to get their passports, so we're going to miss out again on some of the big bands out of Canada. One new thing this year, well, it's not new, it's a new twist on things, is we have what we call the Monument Challenge, where we're calling it the 156 Club because there's 156 stairs going up and 156 back down. So this year, if you go up and all the way back down, you're going to be a part of the 156 Club. We got nice little pins made up for them. Our event Friday night, the courtesy of the city, we're going to have the Adirondack Jazz Orchestra live outdoors on the steps, and that should be a great show.
Bruce, you've produced several videos on the Battle of Plattsburgh. You teamed up with Colonel David Fitz, who is the author of the book, The Final Invasion, and you two produced the documentary. You traveled to Great Britain, to Canada, and all across the U.S. to talk to military experts and scholars about that naval battle here on Lake Champlain.
Yeah, it was in the late 90s, the organizers who came before Tom's organization, Kit Booth and Gary Van Cor, and they began to build up this celebration. I think I'll take a little bit of credit. I think the video really opened up a lot of people's eyes, and it was produced in a way that it was appropriate for students, and at the time it really did start to re-examine a lot of the papers and the things that hadn't been as much in the forefront of the story. And since then, a number of local authors have then picked up and continued to dive in, like Keith Herculow, doing very extensive, in-depth research and analysis of various aspects of the battle, and produced a whole raft of new books and new literature about it. So it's been great to see it continue.
You and David did such extensive research. You really uncovered a lot of new information.
I think that the orders of Bathurst, which is what these orders, which really defined the plan to attack Washington, D.C. and to attack in New Orleans as diversions for the main force coming down, had been known before. They weren't discovered by us, but it is part of the story and part of telling the story. The diary of the Governor General of Canada, Prevost, his daughter, that was new, and that was something that we found through finding family and finding portraits of Prevost that the family had and of the daughter. But her first-hand account, which you hear in the documentary, it's very moving because she's looking at it from the standpoint not only of a British citizen who's in Canada and wants her dad to do well, but as this is potentially going to be catastrophic for the British and for his career if he fails. And by the skill of the American Navy, they ended up failing, at least in that one battle on the lake, and then there was no point. Clearly on land, the British had far superior forces, and they could have, if spite or just killing was their goal, could have continued fighting that day. But without control of the lake, when they lost that, they knew might as well just head back.
In 2020, with the pandemic, with COVID, you had a virtual commemoration. Now on your website is just a wealth of videos that tell fantastic stories about the Battle of Plattsburgh.
And it's this guy here that put all that together, and we have like an archive of history.
And Bruce, last year we showcased the video that you produced with Stephen Englehart, the historian and architectural expert, talking about McDonough's Monument, the huge centerpiece in downtown Plattsburgh, in tribute of the commander of the American fleet of the Battle of Plattsburgh, and fascinating the history, how that came to be. And that video is there. If folks want to watch it, they can go to 1814inc.com and see it.
Yep.
Interesting background is that many people don't know that some of the ancestors of Thomas McDonough come to this event each year. Yeah.
And Stan and Chris Ransom have children's games and show what life was like back in
they did a lot of
era.
research on, like Bruce did on the history. Their history is what did kids do back then? Like Stan says, they didn't have a cell phone, so they had to find something to do. It's just a little wooden loop that you spin around, or walking on stilts. All the things that they found to do to keep them, happy and playing down back in 1814.
Also, the reenactors aren't just about military per se. Some of them really are like specialists in herbal medicine, and they know the types of plants and that grew around this area and what the people back then used that was in their backyard to help fight off disease and issues and help be healthier. So it's fascinating, not just from the military standpoint, but from that sociological, the way people lived. I would invite people that maybe they don't have an interest in the military part, but still come down and see it for this, slice of when Plattsburgh was just beginning, our country was just forming, and it's a lot of fun, and you'll learn a lot. You'll learn an awful lot.
Folks can get buttons that get them into just about every single event.
Oh, the buttons this year are $10, and there's a list of different vendors around the city, or come to our booth when you get here on the 8th or 9th, and the buttons are available. The button really, though, is people say to me, well, what does buying this button give me? And the reality is it gives you the 4-day event that we're doing, because all the money that we generate from those buttons pays for what you're seeing in those 4 days.
Tom Downey, Bruce Carlin, thanks a lot for taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for having us.
Appreciate it.